Good morning. Thank you very much for being here this morning. And it is a great honor that today we have with us Professor Carsten Drebenstedt, who is a professor of surface mining at the Technical University Bergakademie, Freiberg. Before starting his academic career, he had 17 years of work experience in the mining industry. From 2000 to 2006, he served as Vice Rector of Research, and from 2013 to 2016 as Dean in the Faculty of Geoscience, Geoengineering and Mining. His field of teaching and research cover mine planning and technologies, ecology in mining, reclamation, mine water management, and raw material awareness. Professor Drebenstedt supervised 44 PhD students. This is an amazing figure, completing their thesis and worked in more than 100 scientific, educational, and industrial projects. He has organized 60 national and international conferences and published 19 books and more than 490 papers in international scientific journals, conference proceedings, and academic publications. He is Secretary General of the World Forum of Resource Universities on Sustainability and member of the Society of Mining Professors, where he represented Europe in the Council from 2006 to 2015. He is a member of the Saxonian Academy of Sciences, the Romanian Academy of Technical Sciences, the Eurasian Academy of Mining Sciences, the Balkan Academy of Mining Sciences, the Russian Academy of Mining Sciences, the Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, and the International Academy of Ecology and Life Protection Sciences. He has lectured as invited speaker in many countries, while for his contribution to teaching and research, he has been the recipient of 6 honorary doctorates and other academic awards from several universities and mining associations around the world. So Professor Drebenstedt will present his keynote speech about from coal to climate neutral energy supply, easy to do or a complex multi-stakeholder issue. Thank you very much. We're very glad to give you the floor, and thank you for being here. This is a small present with some herbs and some other presents, and we're glad to celebrate it here. Or
I hope you not regret.
No.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for this introduction. I take this topic because it's on one side near to my teaching and research issues, but on the other side these are issues which are very essential for the society worldwide. And even I will introduce you a little bit to the experiment Germany in this topic of energy transition. And maybe you can find some similarities if you go to your countries, or you can expect what it means to make an energy transition. That's why I structured the presentation in a general part about the issues and the needs, the conditions, requirements, and in the end I will take a little bit about my topic, which is what mining engineers can do. So how to start in this topic? And I remember 2 weeks ago I traveled in a car and I listened to an interview. And there was a journalist, and on the other side was an energy expert of one of the parties leading our country, and of course a member of the government. And then was, yeah, to come a little bit into the topic, how energy transition will be realized. Well, so the question, entrance question of the journalist. And the expert answered, yeah, we clearly determined when we stop to use harmful energy sources. And if we everything do in the right way, to introduce environmentally friendly technologies, then we will succeed in this energy transition. So far, the general answer. Then the question of the journalists, sometimes they are useful people. Can you explain more in detail how it should work? Well, and she repeated, well, as I told, if everyone does the right things, explained, which means stop and introduce one and introduce the others, then we will succeed. Now the journalist was very aggressive and asked, but can you tell a little bit more? What's the plan to bring this climate-friendly energy sources into operation? And then he started to explain a little bit. Yeah, there is a plan to coal exit in 2030, favorable, and we will out of coal and gas in near future, and what is about the energy security, how it works. She was a bit nervous and answered the same. So we must do everything in the right way, then we will succeed. Yeah, and at least after time of discussion, we come to a very interesting question, but how much is it? What it means for the people, energy price, because you can do everything, and yeah, the question was, we have the financial resources and tools for this. Now, this is a typical answer from politicians, because, yeah, it's our money from the taxpayer, so they have every time financial resources. So, with such an interview, which goes through the media, people know that it's very easy. You must believe in something, and then it becomes truth. And this is one of the aspects why we have so much difficulties in do it, because what is really behind, people don't understand, and then they come to wrong conclusions. So I give you now some background information where you can see how the framework, the political framework in Germany is established. And these are fragments. What is an energy transition? It starts more than 20 years ago. And in these 20 years, we spent for the so-named renewable energies, I wrote here the zeros, 500 billion euros. This is 30 billion per year. And the result is that we achieved a share of renewables in the energy consumption in Germany in 13%. Now sometimes people listen about 50% or 60% or something like this, but then we come into even more details that one speak about electricity and others speak about energy, and I speak about energy. And energy is the issue, not electricity only. So then we decided to go out in March 23, it's a political decision this year, out of nuclear energy, which is the most climate-friendly one. But there are other issues. Even one of the parties in the government fought a long time against nuclear, and now there was a chance to, let's say, guess. Excuse me, yeah. I only look at my, this was a journalist. So, yeah. We are now here, excuse me. that behind nuclear even some special political interests. So then we decided, as was announced by the politician, very clear that we will go out of coal in 2038, favorable in 2030, and even lignite and hard coal. Hard coal we stop mining, but we still use 30 million tons per year, and we mine another 140 million tons in lignite. Greece is, of course, a big lignite producer. And yeah, and that's why we cover 25% of our electricity demand, sometimes a little bit more, from coal. And how to regulate this coal exit? The government say, okay, we will have a program. We will spend 40 billion for restructuring the regions. And by the way, the coal exit shall be speed up by tax regulations. And this is very easy again. This means if you want, or if you have an offer of renewable energies, then the CO2 tax rises, so that the operation from the coal power plants become uneconomic. And if you have no renewables enough, no wind, no so much solar energy, especially at the night, then you start to lower the CO2 tax, so that the companies have again a stimulation to put into operation their units. Yeah, then we have another interesting issue. This is gas. Yeah, we cover 20% of our own gas demand, which is now a very important source for heat. But then the European Union decided about a ban of the fracking technology. And since then, the production drops down. Nobody more invests in operating of gas fields. And so we are now to near zero. And of course, geothermal energy, deep geothermal energy, is connected with fracking. Fracking is not allowed. So we stop another clean energy, geothermal energy, by the fracking ban. Yeah, then the bridging energy. If we have no nuclear, if you have no coal, if you have no gas in the future, no geothermal energy, what you will use to guarantee the energy supply. And then the decision was we will do it with gas, natural gas. No? We will do it with natural gas. And then comes this typical effect, you know, from last year, with the start of the war against Ukraine. Our dependency from Russian gas, which is 40%, yeah, bring us into trouble. First, we don't want to have gas more from Russia, and then the pipelines were interrupted, so we haven't it. And then trouble on the energy markets, and the German government decided to spend 100 billion euros for a so-named energy price break, even to limit the price for the households and industry, and every price what is above is then paid by the government. The new hope was then LNG, because if you still decided to go out, very clear, and one alternative not works, you must look for another one. And then very hurry, we are built LNG terminals, now we have 2. And then our foreign minister traveled to Arabian countries and to the United States and buy LNG gas. In the end, I show you some figures. This LNG gas is double worst to the environment is gas from pipeline. And this means we have now with the LNG gas more or a higher CO2 footprint as we burn our domestic coal. But decision is decision. So then was a decision very discussed in Germany in June. Our Minister of Economy proposed a law or regulation that from January next year, 6 months, is not more allowed to use oil and gas for heating in households. And all heats which are older than heating systems older than 30 years must be replaced. And there is more or less only one alternative, and this is heat pumps based on electricity. And then it's spoken about, yes, maybe hydrogen and so on. Isolating of houses led now to a crisis in the construction industry because prices to build a house double. So the square meter for a normal house costs now 5,000 euros. And this is of course not possible to realize later on with the income from the renting these houses. So that's why now is a discussion to stop this law and have more time and even not work in this idea of requirements for house isolations. Yeah, and then energy prices grow and grow, and then was made now, or prepared a decision that the government will keep our industry to be international competitive, to subsidize the energy prices. And so a lot of things are decided. A little bit goodwill to build power lines, to build pipelines, to build energy storage, but at least there are no solutions. If you look to this number of decisions, you see only one. There is no consistency, and everything comes. So we say flying by, let's say, clear atmosphere. So you look around and then you decide to go left, to go right. And this is, of course, not an idea how you come to a good result. And you see, we speak about many zeros in euros behind the first figures. And even you mentioned 500, or you listen 500 billion, you listen 100 billion, you listen 40 billion. And if you expect what is the income of Greece, you have an idea how much is it. So, if you look now from the perspective of an engineer, we have a simple approach, because first we analyze the things, then we plan the actions, then we implement, we operate, we monitor, learn from the monitoring, and improve. Now, this is a loop, what we are doing all the time, and this brings us to the point where we are today. So the planning part is even a view in the future. We investigate scenarios, what can happen, even to avoid critical situations, when they come, and what can be such a critical situation, and which alternatives we have in actions to lower the risk or even to deal with the risk. And another very important issue in planning, there are a lot of, is coordinate the activities of different stakeholders. Yeah, and then we give a clear answer, or we ask for clear answers. First, what is to do? Then, when is to do? By whom? Who is responsible? Which resources we need for this? And how is the finance? These are the questions we must solve in any project. And without this, we will not have an implementation of new technologies. And there is the golden rule, which is to change a running system only if you have a complementary working alternative. And what you learn from the German approach is we know clear when we shut down energy sources, but we have no clear plan when we will substitute. This is then time will solve the problem. Yeah, and then of course we must build interdisciplinary expert teams. We must form alliances to work together and succeed. So it seems it's a little bit more complex as in the first interview of the politician. And what we learn is really that politicians say, but entrepreneurs will do. And that's why even you need this conglomerate of decisions. So, let's come into some general headlines. First, history of mankind is the history of energy. I think in this room it's clear that without energy nothing is running. I had the experience yesterday evening and today morning. In accommodation is no electricity. And then if you go to the bathroom, this is in a niche, you have no light. And then try to treat you, and I'm happy that I'm not bloody. Yeah, electricity is something, and when you will, then I think, oh, make a coffee. No, electricity is not working, or toaster. Bread, and not possible, no electricity. Yeah, then you know that it's something essential. And if we look at the history, for example, in agricultural, from human work across animal work to machine work, you see that we have and more and more higher efficiency. This means what we can yield from the areas in time is significant higher. So we have a 200 times, for example, increase in productivity by introducing machines, and this is a basic to feed our world population. This is only one example, and you can find a lot of these examples. Yeah, another story. History of mankind is a history of innovations. And one aspect is energy transition. We come from renewables. Here on the left side. And we will end with renewables here on the right side. And between you see the peaks in coal. Coal contributes in a good manner to the development of our society. We must not forget, coal is not bad. Coal was a solution, even to push the industrial revolution. You see here the oil peak, where we are now, going down. This is gas. You see nuclear, and even in the future we will come back to the renewables. This is even an evolution, and this is, of course, a result of working of the engineers, and we find it in different sectors. History of mankind is in the history of conflicts. If I go to school, I learn a table of events, and mainly this was year 9, the war between this and this guys, and then in this period, the 30 years war, and then the German-French war, and then, yeah, we know very well our history from conflicts, less from other events as Columbus achieved America in 1492. So, what is interesting that the situation we have today is not new. Who is a little bit inside, who knows that Georgios Agricola published the first, let's say, written book about mining and metallurgy, and this was more than 570 years ago, even in 1556. And this book has 12 chapters along the value chain. And the first chapter is a book about the importance of mining and arguments against opposition. So, and he described very well, even as 570 years ago, the people in the region where mining should start, opposites. No, and this is a normal behavior of our human, let's say, development, evolution, that we afraid change. Because a change means two possibilities, it becomes better or it becomes more critical. So, and because you're not sure that it's really better, it's good to opposite and to say, not change, because what I have now, I know. What will be in the future, I don't know. And this behavior is not only specific for mining. You see it in any construction of a road, or even from ecological purposes, or windmills, or airports, or something else. Yeah, these movements we see here on the left side against coal, and on the right side against nuclear and lignite. This is a protest which is recent going on. People entering a mine to protest against coal mining. This is against nuclear. You see it in these phases in the 60s. And these are the new generation against windmills. And and then you have a lot of questions behind, which is, for example, fuel or food. And so we have a wide opposition against the changes which are happening. Even we have the problem that without this awareness about technological progress and development, the young generation will not decide to study engineering, or in general, natural sciences, mathematics, information technologies, engineering disciplines, because it seems is the bad side of the society. Better is to study sociology or languages, or to be a lawyer or manager or something else. But to be an engineer in this environment is not so, let's say, popular. Another message we must understand is that everything on Earth comes from under the Earth. And if you think about this very short, you will understand any plant take out the resources, water and nutrients from the soil. And of course, humans build on top of the surface. And for this, even we need raw materials. And one interesting example for this raw material need, even if you change the technology, illustrates this graph. We have here 4 selected important minerals or products of a mineral industry, which is copper, aluminium, steel, and concrete. And you need it for different technologies. The first 3 one here, you see in the bottom, is nuclear, gas, and coal. And then we have wind on land, wind on water, and solar. And if you see very general, the last technologies in this raw have a higher specific demand. You see in the copper, it's range up to 4 or 5 times more. looking at which starting technology, nuclear or coal, for example. In aluminum, very high demand in solar, and a double to triple demand in wind, for example. Steel becomes up to 3 times more in demand, and concrete, the foundations we have here a double up to 5 times more demand, and this means sand and gravel and lime and gypsum and clays to produce cement, for example. And we must understand that if you protest against the mine in your region, then you protest against the possibility to realize a sustainable building of such facilities. So, and that's why the change in energy transition shows very clear is connected with an increasing in mining industry. So we need more minerals, and not only in volume, but and in the numbers of chemical elements we need to realize the technology, for example, to produce batteries or to produce magnetic fields and so on. Next thing I want to explain is the transformation from electricity to hydrogen, because from time to time there is a speech about, and this is a new hope of the German government to produce hydrogen. First, you see here on the left side how the energy demand today is covered. You see renewables, this is 21. Corona period is 16% roughly. Then you see the share of the others. As I mentioned, this is primary energy. And you find lignite, you find hard coal, oil and gas, which dominates the energy resource. So and now one idea is to produce hydrogen. And especially to substitute here the oil and gas sector, because if you look at the energy demand, this change from year to year. In Germany you have 3 big sectors, and one is the electricity, which is a smaller one here. Then you have the traffic, which is this one here, and then you have heat, which is the largest part in energy consumption. And even with a windmill or with solar energy, photovoltaic, you can't produce heat. So you need a source for heat. For electricity is good sometimes, but for heat you need an alternative. And that's why the conversion from electricity to hydrogen. And what it means? It means that you lost energy because of the transition processes from electricity to hydrogen and sometimes back. And if you will solve the first question, this is only to introduce renewables here in the electricity sector. We need another 50% of renewables. This means we must double our introduction of renewable energy sources. In heat, we have a share now of renewables from 15-16%, and in mobility from 7%. So these are low numbers, so that's why a lot of things are to do. Come back to the hydrogen. It seems very easy. We have renewables, as wind, for example. Then we have an electrolysis, we storage, we transport, we have a business model, and then we sell our hydrogen to the consumer. Well, it looks very, very easy, but even the losses I mentioned can be determined, even if you transform electricity to hydrogen first. You lost 30% of energy. This means they are working 10 windmills and only 7 produce hydrogen. The others produce electricity for the process, which is consumed and goes to the chemical process. And if you then convert back hydrogen to electricity, then the overall efficiency is only 40%. This means you lost 60% of the electricity. And then it's the idea, there's no problem. Because we have wind, we have solar, and we have times when we have a lot of sun and a lot of wind. And in this time we have more electricity available as we can consume, and then we produce hydrogen. And then it costs nothing. Okay, I'm not sure how the calculation is made, but that you can produce or operate a chemical process with no costs, and hydrogen is for nothing. And even, you remember, the share we must improve, or we must introduce hydrogen in energy sector is the lack of 85%. So then we can go a little bit deeper to these issues. As I mentioned, we want to go out of nuclear in electricity, we want to go out to lignite, we will go out to hard coal, and this means that we need, if we only build conventional renewables, a factor 1 to 2 more of capacities, and when we use hydrogen technology, we need 1.5, losses 30%, and when we will go from electricity to hydrogen back, then we have a factor of 3 to 6 only in the electricity sector to substitute the existing sources. Now you can expect double, triple, 6 times more, depending on the solution, is a number which is not to ignore, and it means somebody must invest, somebody must build these parks for wind and solar and others, and this is not so easy, because a politician not invest. This is entrepreneurs, and as you learn, they need a business model. Without business model, nothing will be happening. So look now in substituting oil and gas. We have now a similar picture. We will now go out here, and we learn that in the heating sector, for example, with a heat pump, you can, with electricity, heat. Efficiency is not so high. And you can use hydrogen. And hydrogen especially for the alternative as gas. So, and again, the consequences is that we need, again, which approach you use, heating and mobility with electricity, with hydrogen, or with electricity from hydrogen, then you come up to a factor 10 and more. And this again show us the dilemma where we are, because one is that the let's say transition shall be going on, and on the other side we must decide about a lot of investments. And electricity again is only the smallest part. No? It's the 20%, and for the other 80% we must find a solution too. And I'm personally not see a real approach of this. Even in electricity, I give this graph that we have from the last 33 years, a permanent increase in electricity demand in Germany. It never goes down, and even with digitalization, this is the chart on the right side, on the bottom, we have even a push in electricity demand. And now think about the batteries for the cars you must charge. So where the electricity is coming from. So another challenge we must consider is the availability of the energy sources. And the small explanation, simple mathematics. A year, the same in Greece, we in Germany, has 8,760 hours. And what for a surprise, that we have full, if you accumulate all the hours, sun is shining in Germany, we have maximum 1,000 hours. That depends on the year. This means we can cover in time, in the best case, in average, 11% of this time in a year with solar energy. So, and everybody knows we have night, and in Germany, especially winter time, the night is 18 hours. And then you have 6 hours light, and there is not so much sun on this side. So that's why it's clear that we need a substitution. And you can be very happy even if sun is not shining, wind is blowing. Otherwise, you can't supply in time. You must do something else. So do look at the wind as an alternative. It looks a little bit better. It's around 1,500, 1,600 hours a year in Germany. And this means if in average 18%. And when you say now, okay, when no solar is wind and when no wind is solar, then you come to 30%. This means for 70% of the time, we have not really a decision. This time period can be 5 minutes, or it can be 5 hours, it can be 5 days. And then longer this time lasts, when you have not enough wind and solar, for example, minus what you can contribute from water and biomass, which is very limited in Germany, too. Then you need storage facilities. And the storage facilities are not for 10 minutes. You need them for 5 days. And expect an economy in Germany, leading economy in Europe, shall operate 5 days from a battery. And when you have enough sun, you put it in. If you have enough wind, you put it in. And then, if there's nothing happened, then you press on the button, and then you have a flow, electricity flow from the battery. Everything, very easy. We have now so-named giga storage facilities in Germany. Several football fields and high as a 10-floor building. And beside the power plant, and if you compare the capacity, the power plant operates 24 hours a day, and this giga battery is sucked out in 10 minutes with the same capacity as from the power plant. And then you have an idea that yes, some energy storages are built, but these are only emergency supplies for some minutes. This is the situation now. So biomass is limited by nature. We can't do not so heavy as in Greece. Winter time is very long. Vegetation period is only from May to September. Hydropower is limited because of geography, and geothermal energy is of course limited, and this depends on the natural conditions. You see it here on the right side that we have some hotspots here in the south and the Oberrheingraben, and some here in the north, one hotspot. But in the main part of Germany, we have no really resources for geothermal energy. So this shows us the sun distribution in the north more as in the south, and this is the wind distribution in the south more as in the north. So then, another challenge we must think about energy transition is storage and transportation. I still mention during storage we have losses in energy, not losses, but even a transformation in not usable sources of energy. And you see some, this chemical storage, this is hydrogen, we just talk about, is a 40% in best case. Or if you have storage in compressed air, efficiency is 55%. Pumping water up and down is 85%. So in this is a long-term storage, let's say for 5 days, or let's say 5 hours. For the short-term, you have the battery systems, they reach 95%. But even the longer you will storage the energy, the more inefficient are the technologies, and then you must additional produce, as I told you. So one problem you must solve if you have distributed photovoltaic and wind, and here's some water, and here's some biomass facilities built new, is the grid. So where you can transportate, or pipelines for hydrogen, or even electricity grid for the electricity production. And the demand in Germany in this sector is 14,000 kilometers to realize this new distribution network from the producer sites to the consumer sites. And built up to now are 1,500 kilometers. So we have a lot of things to do. And again, there are similar questions. What do we know? We must build power lines, but the question when, and who, and how much is it? No answer. What you see on the right side, so this is the solution Germany wish. When we have not the resources in our own country, we can take from other countries. So, and then you see here, for example, Iceland, they have geothermal power. Why not they build more power plants in Iceland? Well, they have enough nature, enough place, so they can build more geothermal power plants and supply to Germany. So we have clean energy. Or Norway. Norway is very rich in water resources. And why not? Norway built hydropower stations for us in Germany. And when we need energy, we say, Norway, give us electricity now, we need it. And they say, yes, we are so happy to supply electricity to Germany, and we will build hydropower stations, which are not possible to build in Germany because of environmental issues. But in Norway is obviously no problem. Or we will take here from the sunny area in the Sahara, we will build facilities, and please they supply us solar energy. And so are a lot of ideas where the energy shell comes from, even from other countries. This is the main issue. Then Germany will keep clean. So, yeah, a simple solution to go out of this situation is, of course, to reduce the consumption. If you see all the scenario, you see we can't 10 times increase the numbers of photovoltaic and solar energy, so we must do something else, and this is reduction. So there are different opportunities. This is not the topic of my lecture, but what you see here is that 1990 is a benchmark, and then we will, here in 2050, go to a half of the consumption. And then you see who is participating in this electricity demand in the future. We are now here. Nuclear exit, you see here. Coal exit, you see here. And then we have different sources. And there must be, no, it's not shown here. But you can see it's an interesting mix of different technologies, even wind and solar and biomass and water. This is what has happened now. Curve is not so steep as expected. but the trend is the right one. We reduce hard coal, we reduce lignite, and so the curve goes down. But if you see, for example, the share of renewables over the years is not so a big jump. Huh? So this is nuclear here. So it's not so a big jump. Huh? More or less kind of frozen situation. So then I announced the information about the CO2 emissions. Because it's a driving force for what we are doing in energy transition is to save our planet and fight against the climate change. So starting with our bad boys, coal, the CO2 equivalent behind is 950 gram per kilowatt hour you produce. I told you that the alternative was gas from pipeline, partly from Russia. There the emissions is 650 gram. Nobody told about, they only say that gas is clean. But if you look at the figures, yes, 1/3 less emissions is a jump, but it's not safe our planet. And if we now go to the energy gas from United States, the emissions are more than 1,200 gram. That's why I pointed out that why not burn our coal? It's more climate friendly as using gas from the United States. So solar energy has a footprint of 100 gram CO2 per kilowatt hour, wind 60, and the most clean, even we close nuclear, is 40 gram, and even hydropower in the running fields. And as was mentioned before, we have a limitation in water and biomass, because these are the only sources that can supply 24 hours, 7 days. All other sources not able to do it, and this means we need the storage facilities. Yeah, and then we come to a very important question. This is the price. The last question of the journalist. To what led it? If we change the energy transition, and if you look in the past, you can see we started here, this is electricity with 14 cents per kilowatt hour. Then before the energy crisis in 22, we doubled to 32 cents. Oh, now it's a jump, you will see how this develops. But now after normalization, we have a price higher than, I think today is 42 cents per kilowatt hour. Who can pay for such an energy? Germans. The next is about gas. You see gas price drops down up to 21 because of the cheap gas from Russia. And now we have this crisis situation and the prices double and triple. Let's see how the progress is going on. And the last one is as an example from fuel. This is the gasoline. And you can see we start with €1 in 2000. And actual, we have €2. And there is not a shortage in oil on the world markets. But in any case, the energy sector is in movement. But I see it's relatively cheap. If I look at the fueling stations in Greece, €2 is, I think, near to what we see in Germany. So then we come to the part of some scientific issues. I told you about the peak. In this one figure, you see the peak of coal, and then the peak of oil, and then the peak of gas. And this means somewhere in energy rich a maximum of production, then other alternatives becomes more attractive, and then it goes down. Or even in mineral resources, they are exhaust, there are not more minerals available. And if you look what has happened in the world, this is here is the coal production. We are now here 2020 in a range of roughly 8 billion tons of coal which is produced. And you see this is not the peak. And the scale here is 10 years. So you can see maybe we will reach a peak here in 2030, 2040. This means worldwide the coal production and use of coal in the energy sector will increase. So we have two trends. We have in China and India and Indonesia an increase in electricity in coal production, and in Europe we reduces, but in average we have an increase. The reduction not compensates the new constructions in other countries. And then you see only after a period here in the end of the century we will come down maybe to a half of 4 billion tons of coal. This means coal is nothing we can wish us to eliminate from the agenda, but it's still in place. And what we can do, and this is my criticism, for example, if power plants are still in construction, why to not build them with the newest technologies, as we in Europe do? Like Greece this year introduced a new power plant, highest level in efficiency, safety, and so on. But there is a ban. European Union not more participate in building power plants, coal-fired power plants in the world. But this is not a contribution to reduce the number of power plants because they build in any case. And but vice versa, it's decreases or increases worse because the footprint of other power plants built by Chinese or other countries at the safety level is less as we can do. I don't understand. We can save more CO2 emissions as in Germany if we export our technologies. And the second one is a carbon capture and storage technology we introduced in 2011. The projects were still made and a law was made to catch the CO2 from the coal-fired power plants. So I calculated we have a storage capacity in the north of Germany of 30 years, and this is a good period for bridging. We have no emissions from power plants, and we can step by step introduce renewables. And we must not say we must shut down then and so on. No, we can do it in a coordinated way. But then was a political misunderstanding because in the law about CO2 storage was written that the decision for storage of CO2 is made by the federal states, not by the federal government, but by the federal states. And the federal states immediately say no. You know, they're afraid to change is one, and second, ask a politician will elect again, and he needs topics to demonstrate that he is for the population. And to be for something is we will not storage waste in our beauty land, and maybe in the future we have dangerous, there can be a volcano or an earthquake, and so all the CO2 comes back, which is diluted in the water, and 4,000 meters depth, and so on. So we stopped all these technologies, and today our Minister of Economics traveled in January to Norway to inform about a CO2 capture and storage project in a cement factory, which is even one-to-one what we want to do 12 years ago in Germany. And then you say, oh yes, this is very good what we're doing, capture the CO2 and press it to the sediments. Maybe we will build a pipeline. Why, if you even build hydropower plants to supply Germany with electricity, why will you not will help us in storage CO2? In Germany we can't do it because the federal states will not have it, but maybe Norway will have it. We will pay good for you. So there are some stupid things around. Excuse for this expression nobody understands. This carbon capture is an proved technology. And as I mentioned, we have a second option, which is geothermal power and natural gas production in their own country. Yes, we can buy fracking gas from the United States with a higher footprint as coal, but why we not use our own gas? And we say as experts, a half year and we can come back to 15%, and after another half year we can back to 20% plus of covering the gas demand with our own resources, without LNG terminals, without transport, without anything. Now there's a fracking ban in the European Union. So that's it. So we have not a consistency in what we are doing. We are jumping from one point to another one. So, sustainability starts with mining. Everybody knows the SDGs. We are here in the 12. With consumption and production, but there are some more. And to bring it into a common idea, I started with a welfare, with an economic role, and say target 8 shall be, let's say, the starting point. To development and economy and to create welfare, we need first minerals, and second, we need energy, discussed about. Energy comes from minerals, as we learned. So, if we then have an economic role and welfare, of course, we can eliminate target 1, which is people are not more hungry, not more living in poverty, and they are not more hungry. If we have the task to solve the problem of food production, we need fertilizer from mining industry. If we then care about water, there's another essential issue for our human life. Then we come to the idea we need for this mineral resources, especially for ceramics, pipelines, and sinks, think about, and toilets, and so on. So if we have all this, then of course we can speak that people becomes more healthy because their living conditions improves, and for health care we need of course a lot of minerals. I don't know, deep into it. If people are not more hungry, they will live more friendly together because there is not a fight, a competition to the resources. And then we come to the point of education. After the basic needs are covered, people think about reading something and qualifying themselves, and we have no problems with equalities and inequalities in our planet. Then we come to the topic of modern communities and infrastructure. For what you need on one side, electricity, and on the other side you need minerals for the infrastructure. And when you then continue, you come to sustainable consumption and production, because it needs, first of all, education, it's covering of the basic needs. And after this, you will come to, let's say, good governance issues, and you will come to life below water, climate actions, and life of land. Sometimes, and then we can work together to achieve the goals. Sometimes there was the impression that it's turned, that we look first here at the climate change, and then we are looking somehow to the other ones. But I think it's wrong to do so, because we have, let's say, a logical chain to consider to have the progress. So why I pointed out this, because we have several needs and priorities. So one is that 800 million people on our planet have not enough to eat, and 9 million died every year because of this. And answer is, for example, producing fertilizer for mining industry. 1 billion humans have no access to clean water, and 2.6 billion no access to sanitary, with some consequences. And answer is sanitary products, water infrastructure, medical tools, and so on. And who was, especially in India, knows about this. 1 billion humans have no access to electricity. Our topic, energy transition. For a lot of people in the world, the energy transition topic is they have no electricity. And this comes from which source? Which for them not an idea. They not participate in this project. And that's why there is a need, especially in India and Indonesia. Only in India there are 80 million, as a country as Germany, with no electricity people. We must give them electricity, but not the most expensive one, as you learn, but more cheaper and secure supply. Yeah, 150,000 people die in wars. About the distribution of the resources, the answer here is education. And what is necessary to understand that climate change is not the only challenge we have, but we must look to all the challenges we have at the same time, and must care about the functioning of our planetary system at all, and not only with a selected point, how like politicians. Yeah, last information for today. There is an interesting study in European Union I spoke last year about, which is the methods for clean energy in Europe. You must not read it, because here on the top you see all we spoke about: solar, wind, bio, geothermal, hydro, nuclear, electricity networks, battery systems, electrical vehicles without batteries, hydrogen technology, and then you see here the minerals which are needed, and you see, for example, in a battery, in the electric vehicles, we have a lot of chemical elements we need, or here in the nuclear we need a lot of, and in wind we need a lot of, and in solar we need a lot of mineral resources. And when we then look what are the demand in the future, we see, for example, we need more than 200 times more lithium, we need 40 times more rare earth elements as dysprosium, we need 4 times more in cobalt, 50, we must double the production in copper and aluminium. So that's why there is a big challenge behind to do it. And it's no secret. Let's take copper as an example. The share of copper production today in the demand in copper in Europe is 20%. Well, we have significant copper production facilities in Sweden, in Romania, in Bulgaria, in Spain, in Portugal, in Ireland. So we have a lot of copper, but it's only 20% of what we consume. And this means at least that our wishes to have water, energy, or hydropower from Norway, or geothermal energy from Iceland, yes, and we want to have the copper from other countries, and they shall do this here. So typical copper mine, so they can excavate to make us happy, that we can realize our energy transitions. And there are a lot of pictures around which are not very nice about the consequences that we export our problems into other countries because we have enough mineral resources in Europe, but it's a question of the price. And for these guys here, you must not pay so much. Or for this transport system here, as ants we learned yesterday. You need oil for this women here transporting waste. You must not pay so much. And so that's why we go to these countries. That's why this supply chain ethics are so important today, to not, let's say, destroy the planet in another place where we are not living and thinking how good we are in realizing our energy transition in Europe. And second point is that even we must take the responsibility and use our domestic mineral resources. And only in Germany we have copper deposits, we have lithium deposits, we have deposits in tin, in tungsten, in a lot of minerals which counted critical or strategic important. So that's why we need to avoid all these negative impacts. These are pictures from Germany, exactly this one here. All these negative influences of mining be eliminated step by step to make our, let's say, or to respond to our responsibility. Again, copper, I give you an example. We have a need in 17 million tons worldwide. If you think about an average grade of 0.8 now % of copper in the ore, you must mine more than 2 billion tons of ore. And when you then have a swimming ratio, this is a relation between overburden and ore, you need, in best case, another 1 billion. Now, this means we mine 3 billion tons of material. This means we crush, we load, we transport, we process, operate metallurgical plants to get 17 million tons of copper. 3 billion, and the yield is 17 million. And this is a good deposit. And this shows us if you will double, then you will have more of these pictures here. We have these mines, we need double of these mines. Then you can satisfy only the demand in Europe. We don't speak about the worldwide demand. But if Europe is an example, then you can multiply our 500 millions with us and happy with a factor of 12, then you come to the demand in the world, if everybody will have the clean energy as we in Germany. So these are figures you must really think about, that yes, there must be something in advance, and somebody must develop, and somebody must start, and but we are far away from solutions which are really, you can name, sustainable. So yeah, let's stop maybe with this slide. Yeah, this is mine site as we see it after extraction of minerals. There is a lot of space for nature. There is a lot of space for recreation. People are happy to living there even after mine closure. They have a lot of opportunities there, and you have business in tourism. You have business in fishing. And other issues. So that's why mining is not the problem. Mining is a part of the solution to come to a sustainable energy transition. And we can do it in our own country with best available technologies, with a high level of security. And this is my personal wish, that we understand and start to think as an engineer to analyze the situation, to plan actions, to implement the actions, operate the actions, analyze the results, improve, and start the loop again with a clear answer: what is to do, when is to do, who is responsible, how much is it in resources, and who will pay for it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Drebenstedt.
Kostas, turn on the microphone. Turn it on. Up. The switch has to go up.
Thank you very much, Professor Drebenstedt. The speech was excellent. We can discuss on this issue for ages. It's a very complicated issue. It involves all the stakeholders. But as you mentioned, maybe young engineers are not so fond about studying these topics, but these topics are intriguing. For mining engineers, metallurgical engineers, chemical engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. So all fields of engineering are involved in this issue. And I'd like to mention only that it's a great challenge also for our European University, EURECA-PRO, because Freiberg, the University of Crete, Leoben, and all the other universities which are involved, I think there's a lot of work for all of us to do in the near future. We're only a bit late, so I think we've got time for just 2 questions, and then we can further discuss in the rest of the conference. So, just we take only 2 questions. Thank you. So the coffee break is sacred, eh? We know that. So, because of this slight delay, all other sessions will start 11:15. Okay, just have some time. Okay. See, 1 question, please, over here.
Hello, thank you for your talk. Like in your talk, you talked a bit about fracking and how like the EU banned it now. But like a big problem with fracking is like the earthquakes that come in a nearby area because the ground way below gets cracked. And like, what kind of solutions could we have for that? Because yeah, like the surrounding area is also important, of course.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think to every of the single points there can be a lecture behind. I will give you, let's say, first the idea that if you speak about fracking in Europe, our gas deposits are in depths of 2,000 meters, 3,000, 4,000 meters. It's not as United States in the 200 to 300. So first, if you put some energy in a fracking is creating of cracks and fissures in the underground, then the danger is that something breaks to the surface. It's only stupid. It's a fake. And but there was a reason why there was a ban for fracking. Other countries are doing it without any problem. Let's take the example from, again, our politicians. If it becomes not critical, they say, please, a group of experts shall analyze what is with fracking. Is this dangerous? Can we activate our gas deposits again? And then the experts wrote an expertise. And the expertise was positive. One of the former presidents of the German Geological Survey was member of the commission, and he told that they deliver this positive expertise to the parliament for decision, and it will never come to the agenda of the parliament because the result not satisfied the expectation of the politicians. And this is the kind of behavior I learn only in such cases. Why you have any touch to such things? They ignore. And so long, the expertise which is written, and where experts say from fracking the risk is very, very minimal, then this not exist, because it's not on the agenda of the parliament. And this shows that, this is not a question of belief. If you ask the experts, they say that as we do it, under the conditions we have, fracking is not a problem. And yes, there were some problems. Really, this was with geothermal energy, because, but this was another reason. Again, in deep depths of more than 1,000, 2,000 meters, because they only becomes relatively hot, and but there was not a good sealing of the borehole. How it's named, this tubings, and then some mineral water rise upwards from the outside of the tube, and then starts to penetrate into rocks, where we have in solution processes and expansion as clays put water in, expand, bentonite or something, increase the volume, and then starts a movement of the surface. But this was really accidents. This was a learning process. You must say, okay, under these conditions you will never do it if you have, or you must improve the drilling technology. But we learn on such events. But this was not fracking, this was another issue. when such, let's say, boreholes give a negative effect. Yeah, we must say, okay, we were wrong, but in fracking, to answer your questions, the German expertise is that in our conditions, and this is the same as in Dutch and Netherlands and everywhere in Norway, there is not a real risk for the surface.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think let's move to the coffee break now, and we can discuss it later. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.